Hello again, everybody. Scotty P here, this time coming to you from the beaches in Delaware. Last weekend I was away in Boston, but back in Maryland this week and off to the beach for a couple days before I got to get back to Maryland. Going back and forth here for a few days. Not a bad drive, only about 2.5 hours. Depending on traffic, last night it was 4, but that's okay. Beautiful day. The beach is beautiful. We're about a mile away from the actual ocean here, and things are good. June 18th edition of Algalytics here. We're taking a look at yesterday's secondary pick from AlgaVision. Was given out to clients and customers. Secondary picks, of course, are 60% plus win probability. A primary pick would be a 70% plus win probability. And again, AlgaVision is an algorithm that has picked the winners in sports events for a long, long time at nearly a 65% win percentage. So those primary and secondary picks are only the top level picks that go out to clients and customers. They are the top of the top, the best of the best. There are many others that are close that don't make the cut, but these are the best. And over many, many years, they've won at nearly a 65% rate and provided a very good ROI, return on investment, that is as good or better than most investment opportunities currently available to on the market. Unfortunately, yesterday was a loser. The Tampa Bay Rays at minus 179 against Seattle. They blew a 5-2 sixth inning lead. Starter Rich Hill was cruising along, then ran into trouble in the sixth, and they cut the lead from 5-2 to 5-4. Then the bullpen came in. The bullpen did the job. The first 3 pitchers out of the pen were awesome for Tampa. 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 4 Ks, no runs. They bring in one of their top guys to close it out. Pete Fairbanks comes in. You figure he's going to shut it down. He left the game with an ERA of right around 2, so he entered the game with an ERA well below 2. And unfortunately, in 1/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 2 runs, and a walk. The only out he got was a popped-up bunt. When a team tries to play small ball and bunts into a pop-up out, you're thinking that things are pretty good. But things look pretty well lined up for Tampa to win. They had one of their best pitchers on the mound to close it out, and you just can't count on those types of things, that a guy with an under 2 ERA is going to basically give up 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning pitched, which works out to a 54 ERA for the game. And his ERA is still 2.04. So just a bad break last night. Tampa was 24-8 in its last 32 coming in. But on the other side, the Mariners now have won 4 or 5. Considered one of the worst teams in baseball coming into the season. They've probably been one of the surprises, and they managed to win last night. Starter Justin Dunn left the game after 2 innings with shoulder problems, and he had given up only 1 hit in those 2 innings and struck out 1. So things look really favorable. The starting pitcher goes out. You're going to get deep into the Seattle bullpen. You jump out to a 5-2 lead, and then your bullpen shuts them down. You bring in your guy to close it out, and he can't do the job. Happens every now and then. It was his first blown save of the year. Again, you can't. He's got 3 saves. He's usually their setup guy. He's usually lights out. He's got 3 saves and 4 opportunities. So that's a 75% chance there of winning, on top of the 60% win probability that the algorithm gave us. So you think you're going to win that one, but unfortunately you don't. But just a little blip on the radar. Again, AlgaVision has won at a near 65% rate for many, many years. And even if you look, despite the loss last night, if you take a quick look at how we're doing since June 1st with the AlgaVision selections, 70% primaries, 3-1, 75% win percentage, and the secondary picks are now 3-2. Overall, the top selections from AlgaVision are 6-3, or 67% since June 1st. So not bad at all. Things are going well. You just have to stay the course. Long term, this is you're riding it out over the long term. If you follow the instructions, if you make AlgaVision's picks over many, many years, proven, documented, fully transparent. I'm here talking about a loss today, right? They brought me in. I've been tracking these results for 5 years independently. They brought me in every day to analyze the wins and the losses. So we'll celebrate the victories. We'll dissect the losses. Just a tough break last night. But we'll see what we have in store for today. Looking just at a little review of sports in general. Yesterday, some of the results, favorites in Major League Baseball were 7-3 yesterday. The underdog winners, of course, the Mariners beat us. The Rockies at plus 139, and the Cubs as a slight underdog at plus 101, all victorious for the year. Favorites 571 and 413. That's 58%. So if you bet every favorite this season, you'd be winning at a 58% margin. But remember, some of those games are minus 300, minus 275, minus 250, some of those losses. So 58% may not cover the juice. But if you're betting with AlgaVision, which only gives you the top of the top, it's usually favorites. It's almost always favorites. And sometimes it's favorites, at a minus 200 level. Last night was minus 179. But if you're winning 63% of the time and you're taking the juice, you're still producing an ROI that is very strong over the long term. Again, stay with it for the long term. Over the long haul, AlgaVision has been very successful over many years. Overs in Major League Baseball, 7, 2, and 1 yesterday. Now, this is interesting. In the last 3 days, overs are 26, 13, and 1. Ever since this tacky substance stuff with the pitchers and Major League Baseball cracking down on that kind of stuff has come about, the overs have been in play for sure. So keep an eye on that. The totals will adjust soon, but you might be able to jump on some opportunities there. In the meantime, overs now 497 and 485 for the season. If you remember, about a week ago, it was only 2 games over 500. Now it's 12 games over 500. So the last week with the Major League Baseball announced crackdown, the overs have been hitting. So keep an eye on that. NBA last night, Bucks with a big win. -5 favorite, 104-89 to force a game 7 in their series against the depleted Nets. The game went over the total of 220. Zigzag selection yesterday. The Bucks were a winner. That means that the team that lost the last time, you just automatically bet that they're going to win the next time. They're only 20-31 in the playoffs, so going the zigzag route. So be careful of that. That's very popular. Kind of maybe a fallacy that people think is always happens. However, desperation games, maybe that changes a little bit. Favorites in the second round, straight up NBA 12-8, 10, 9, and 1 favorites against the spread in the round. Overall in the playoffs, 42-21 favorites straight up, 38, 24, and 1, or 61% favorites against the spread. Keep that in mind. Home teams 14-6. Straight up 12, 7, and 1 against the spread in round 2. Overall, home teams are 36-27, straight up 34, 28, and 1, 55% against the spread. Unders 12, 7, and 1 in round 2, 31, 30, and 2 overall. Keep an eye on the unders in these game 6s and game 7s, though. Over the last 10 years or so, they've been a very strong play to go under. Defense ramps up. Maybe the guys are a little tired. A long season, long series. But it's been a pretty good bet over time, but back in the first round, it was not a great bet. So again, do your research, do your homework, look to AlgaVision. If what your numbers say add up with what AlgaVision say, and if the pro and sharp money is on your side, I'd say go for it. It's always a pretty good bet when that happens. NHL, just AlgaVision doesn't do NHL picks, but you guys are probably interested. I'm a big hockey person. Tampa Bay -135 with a big 2-1 win in game 3 of their semifinal series against the New York Islanders. They lead the series 2-1. The under at 5 hit last night in that game. Favorites in the NHL 3-2 in the semifinal round, 37-31 overall. Road teams 3-2 in the second round, but home teams are 36-35 overall in the NHL playoffs. The overs are 3-1-1 in the second round, 37-32 and 2, 54% overall. Looking at the NBA tonight, another big game 6. The 76ers blew a huge 26, I believe, point lead in game 5. That would have given them a 3-2 advantage in the series. Instead, the Hawks have turned it around from a 2-1 deficit to a 3-2 advantage. And I believe I saw online that at one point in that game, the Sixers were minus 50,000 to win. And the Hawks came back and did it. The last 2 dogs in this series have won outright, something to keep in mind. The under in this game, the over-under has gone from 225 to 221, 222.5 to 221.5, excuse me. The spread, the 76ers opened up at 2.5 points some places, 3 points some places. It has held steady at 3 since moving from 2.5 to 3. The public seems to favor the Sixers. So watch that line. If that line moves toward the Sixers, you probably got some professional sharp money on them. If the public is just killing the Sixers and just hammering them, and the line goes the other way, then you probably got some pro money on the Hawks, which is always good to look at. The Jazz and Clippers, another game 6. The Jazz with their backs against the wall also blew a lead the other night. The Clippers opened at a +2 underdog, and it's now down to +1.5. The public again thinks the Jazz very good team all year, backs against the wall, thinks that they're gonna do it. The public is all over the Jazz, yet the line is moving toward the Clippers. That's always one of those indicators. If AlgaVision gives you a pick and the pros are on a pick, always a good bet. The over under in that game is held 219.5 down to 219. Small move, and just the higher overs total numbers have gone over consistently in the playoffs, and then the lower total numbers have gone under. The threshold, it's hard to figure out, but generally if it's below 220 and the juice is on the under, a lot of sharps tend to be betting on the unders in those situations. The Clippers are a -185 favorite to win the series now. So the Jazz are +135, similar to the Sixers. The Hawks are -160 to win the series. The Sixers are +135. If you think the Sixers or Jazz are going to win this game tonight, then you had a game 7 toss up, home court advantage. Might be worth making a play on the series win instead of betting the game. It's just better odds. Of course, you got to win 2, but the odds are much better just on winning, money line, not worrying about point spread. So always something to consider there. NHL tonight. Vegas Golden Knights and the Montreal Canadiens tied at 1. Surprise to some. Vegas was a huge overvalued -250 in the last game and ended up losing 3-2. Made a valiant comeback after falling behind. Considered vastly superior on paper, but Montreal's a different team than they closed the season. Carey Price is an incredible playoff goalie. I think when the Montreal scores 3+ goals, Price's playoff record is like, I don't know. It was 12-0 at one point. I think it might be 13-1 or 14-1. He's lights out. He's one of the best goalies in the world, one of the best goalies of all time, probably. Just hasn't played on a lot of great teams. He has the ability to win these games. At -250, Vegas was just a very suspect bet in the last game. No hockey playoff series and Stanley Cup semifinals is going to be that lopsided. It's dropped to -167 on the road tonight for Vegas. First trip to Canada for a U.S. team this year. Should be interesting. The over-under was 5.5, bet down to 5, back to 5.5. The Carey Price is the X factor. Vegas is the better team on paper, but Montreal is a bit of a hard team to figure out with a lot of new guys in the lineup since the end of the season. A lot of young players that are playing really well, probably have nothing to lose, no fear. So it should be interesting, but Vegas at -167 appears to be a much better bet than they were at -250. Some interesting games in Major League Baseball today. The Phillies and the Giants. Phillies are the Giants' best team in the National League so far this year, have moved from -125 to -134. Some big underdog movements in the today. Trevor Bauer. Now, remember, we talked about the overs since the sticky ball scandal has sort of come up, and MLB is cracking down on substances being put on baseballs by pitchers, which increases the spin rates and so forth. And we know Trevor Bauer is a big spin rate guy who's really worked on improving his spin rate over the last few years and won the Cy Young last year. Well, that line opened at -240 with Bauer on the mound against Caleb Smith, which seems like a bit of a mismatch, although Smith's having a decent year. It's down to -200. And again, we talked about the overs at 26 and 13 the last 3 days, kind of since all this has boiled over with the MLB and the substances. So big underdog move there. Another huge underdog move, Cardinals and Braves. Braves are -149, but open at -185. Carlos Martinez against Max Fried. And that game looks like an even pitching match, but that line move, if you really dig into the numbers, all right, Martinez ERA 5.54, Fried 4.62, but Fried's WHIP is 1.441. Really, anything over 1.3 is really questionable. Martinez is a much more respectable 1.23, and he is the team is 4-8 in games Martinez has started. Where Fried, the team is 4-6 in games that he started, and his ERA is 4.6. So not a big difference. Two pretty bad ERAs, but Martinez has the better WHIP. The Braves were a huge favorite. It's moved toward the Cardinals. Something to think about. Maybe the pitching edges to Martinez there, and the pros are on that. Another underdog move. The Indians were a -147 favorite today against the Pirates, and that moved to 130. The Pirates tend to get a lot of pro money. I think when you lose a lot of games and you're a big underdog, they see value on the plus number and they go that direction. They're not dependable. The Indians, the Diamondbacks get some pro money also. Just not the Rangers, just not dependable teams. Wouldn't recommend moving in that direction, even if the pros are on it, because you just don't know. And so just a little bit of a wrap up of yesterday and what's going on today. We'll see what picks AlgaVision has for you. Remember the website, we're up and running. If you want to join, if you're not a member, www.algavision.com, ALGA vision.com. Remember, AlgaVision, an algorithm, no human involvement, no human emotion, 63% winners over many, many years, completely documented, completely transparent. Check them out. You'll be happy that you did. Thanks for watching. We'll be back later in the weekend.